the Mesilat Yesharim, the Ramchal, Rabbi Chaim Moshe Luzzatto, he writes at the end of Mesilat Yesharim some separate ma'amarim, separate writings that are more Kabbalistic in a section called Derech Etz Chaim. He says as follows: know this, that these writings, for you to understand, to delve into, and know that there is no better cure to our ailment than the toiling in Torah. Because there's nothing that weakens the strength of the Sitra Achra, the strength of the evil, the Satan, as much as toiling in Torah. Just like is well known that it was told the story of the great Chassid and Mekubal, Rav Rabbi Shimshon Astripoli. This is Rabbi Shimshon of Astripoli, one of the great giants. Shaya Gzera, at a time where there was a decree, horrible decree, in the year 5408, almost 400 years ago, Rachmana litzlan. There was so many horrors happening at that time. The Crusades were literally going from Jewish community to another, killing everybody, leaving no one, nothing. Literally putting everybody in the middle square of the town, lining them up on lines, asking them either to forsake God and then worship their idol in Christianity. No, chop their head off. On the spot, no questions asked, no second chance, nothing. One after another died on Kiddush Hashem, one after another. And unfortunately some did not die in Kiddush Hashem and instead tried to save their life by becoming Christians. And some of them, those that became Christians, got to a point where they literally became missionaries for Christianity and some of the biggest enemies of the Jewish people for the next few hundred years, bringing more pogroms and inquisitions to Am Yisrael as like a revenge against the Jewish people that they came from. The decrees during that time were unprecedented. And the Ramchal brings it. These horrible things that happened to our people was something you couldn't quantify, you couldn't measure. It was atrocity after another. A person just, what happened here in America in September 2001, people that, like myself, remember like it was yesterday. It was a horrible thing that happened. Thousands of people died, and literally in moments. One day, everybody is doing fine. The next day, you have literally everybody's running for their lives. Nobody knows what's going on. It looks like literally there's like a atomic war. If you were in New York City during that time, it literally looked like the world was going to end. It literally looked like the world was going to end. Horrible, horrible times. Well, Rabotai Karim, what happened in America in September 2001, and needless to say, what happened in America right before World War II, where right before America joined World War II, where Japan attacked them. Horrible things. Those horrible things, and even the October 7th, horrible, were nothing in comparison to what was happening just a few hundred years ago from the sword of Esav. And the Ramchal brings it, that at that time, the great Mekubal, the Chassid, the Tzaddik, Rabbi Shimshon Astripoli, השביע הרב הנזכר למעלה לסטרא אחרא, ושאל אותה, he spoke to the Sitra Achra himself, not to Hitler, that is the messenger of the Sitra Achra, not to Khomeini, not to all of these Saddam Hussein. No, he spoke to the Sitra Achra himself, brought him down, and asked him, על מה ולמה את מקטרגת על עמנו בני ישראל יותר מכל האומות? For what and about what are you prosecuting against our nation, is Israel, more than all of the other nations? והשיבה לו, and she responded to him, התבטלו מכם שלושה דברים אלו ואחזור מקטרוגי, ואלו הם שבת ומילה ותורה. The Sitra Achra told him, if you cancel, you tell people to stop fulfilling these 3 mitzvot, I'll stop prosecuting against you. Stop keeping Shabbat, stop fulfilling the mitzvah of Milah, not only the Brit Milah, but also being moral, and stop learning Torah. If you stop those 3 mitzvot, you can live freely, no one's going to touch you. מיד השיב לה הרב הנזכר למעלה, יעבדוהם כהנה וכהנה, ואל תתבטל אות אחת מתורתנו הקדושה חלילה. הרי תבין ותדע שכל הקבלות שנתתי לך עד הנה הן אמת, ולימוד תורתנו הוא ליצר רע ולסטרא אחרא סם המוות, ולאחינו בית ישראל הוא סם החיים. Rabbi Astropoli, Rabbi Shimshon Ami Astropoli says to the Sitra Achra himself, herself, he says, you want us to stop keeping Shabbat? Stop Brit Milah? Stop Torah? Why? Because thousands upon thousands of us are being killed because of your prosecutions? Let them and more of them, meaning let these Jews that have died and many more like them die, and not a single letter of the Torah, not a single letter of the Torah would ever be forsaken. Meaning, the only thing that makes us Jewish, Rabotai Karim, is the Torah. A Jew that observes the Torah is a Jew that is fulfilling their obligation of being Jewish. A Jew that forsakes the Torah is a Jew that's wearing a costume as if they are a Gentile. Is pretending as if they do not have a commitment that is 3,300 years old. And Rabbi Astropoli, at a very emotional time, uses Kabbalah, uses the Holy Torah, uses all of what he has, all the possible powers he has, to not just pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as he always did, learn his Torah as he always did, but literally bring down the Malach that is made look like as if he's running the world, and prosecutes against her. Also, says, what are you doing? Why are you prosecuting against us? What did we do to you? Says, forget what you do to me. Just stop learning Torah, I'll leave you alone. And when Rabbi Astropoli knew that this was what it's all about, he says, if that's what we're dying for, let more die, and we're still not going to stop learning Torah. Because without Torah, there's no world, there's no life, there's no Jews, there's nothing. And therefore, the Ramchal sums up this section with a conclusion and says, know and understand this. He's talking to the reader. שכל הקבלות שנתתי לך עד הנה הם אמת, that all of the things that I told you to take upon yourself here are all the emet, the truth. ולימוד תורתנו and that our Torah learning, what I told you to take on, this is the potion of death to destroy the Sitra Achra and the Yetzara, meaning the Yetzara and his wife. And for our brothers, Am Yisrael, it's the potion of life. It's the potion of life. So when a person hears of the horrors that could be, knows that it happened in history, the first question that a person would ask, how do I get rid of it? I don't want this. I don't want the Satan to take over and run the world, or make it look like he runs the world. Well, Rabotai, in 1976, there was a man that, by the name of Yechiel Danu, and he was suffering unlike any other in his generation. Why was he suffering? His real name was Yechiel Feinel. Some called him Kachetnik. He was actually a student of one of the Gedolei Ador, Rabbi Meir Shapiro of Lublin. And he even got to the point when he was learning Torah, to the point of learning with his Rav Kabbalah. He was an extraordinary Gaon, Talmid Chacham. But when the Enlightenment movement spread, he was caught in the trap of the Enlightenment movement that was forsaking the Torah, that was distorting the Torah. Many of the key players in the Enlightenment movement were actually people that were knowledgeable in Torah and knew how to twist it in order to confuse people and bring him to the side of the Satan while making them think that they're actually going closer to Hashem. And this Yechiel Feinel was one of them. Now, how did he earn the name Kachetnik? Because of what followed, which was the Holocaust. In the Holocaust, he suffered beyond comprehension suffering. And despite the fact that he survived physically from the Holocaust, he never truly recovered psychologically and spiritually from the Holocaust. He abandoned the Torah completely. By the time he became a witness during the Nuremberg trials, he was completely secular, and he suffered tremendously from the recurring nightmares and the depression. During his testimony, which was actually aired on television, the world saw and heard the words of Kachetnik, and shortly thereafter saw him literally enduring the pain all over again on national TV and passing out, completely losing consciousness. And in 1976, because of these nightmares and depressions, he sought out the therapy of a Dutch psychiatrist, Jan Bastians, who was an expert in treating Holocaust survivors. And the treatment that he had included the use of hallucinogens, LSD. And the visions that they experienced during this therapy was supposed to be healing. In the case of Kachetnik, it certainly led him to see things, and even see things that encouraged him to write his book, Shiviti, a very famous book, Shiviti Hashem Negdi, based on, obviously since he was formerly a Torah scholar and a Torah observant Jew, he's very familiar with the Psalm of David. But we actually see from the writing that his treatment did not bring the best of him. In fact, it only exposed his confusion. Eventually, he even sided with the Arabs against the Jews. He joined the liberal left, saying he doesn't want the same thing that happened to the Jews that happened to him to happen to the Arabs, not realizing that the very same people he is voting for, protecting, will eventually murder his descendants, his family, his friends, and so on. But because he learned from one of Gedolei Israel, and he was formerly learned in Kabbalah and different terminologies with it, we actually see something very relevant in his book to the question at hand, the topic at hand. In one of his books called Tzofen Edma, he gives a illustration of one of his psychotherapy sessions with the LSD, and what he told the doctor, or what the doctor told him. It's documented, what he's seeing, and he sees as follows. Auschwitz was full of fires, full of extraordinary, colorful fires. And I knew that I was called back to Auschwitz to see this awesome sight where Ashmedai would become the king of Auschwitz. Ashmedai is the king of demons. Inu, here he is. I see him with my own eyes coming out of the fire, coming out from the depths of the fire, covered in smoke, and he rises above the heavens. And Mechazai and Azael, these are two other angels of evil, they're also are like covering over his head, like a mushroom over his head. It's an awesome sight in the heavens. And I see that they are making him a king. King of all kings, of all of the worlds. And there are horns, shofarot, blowing to the four corners of the world. And he's named as the controller and the king of the world. And he's renamed Nucleus. And he was born from the heart of the oven that's in Auschwitz, from a new material, specific material that came from the souls of the 1.5 million children that were burned alive. And I see Auschwitz with my own eyes, and this Nucleus, the king of the world, sitting on the throne of glory, and under like a mushroom, like a dome, covering him. To such an extent that he covers the sun and the heavens. And then I hear a voice. And you, son of man, how do you see this? How do you interpret this? And I cry out, Hashem, why? Why? I look up, and what do I see? I see the word shiviti, meaning the shiviti la Hashem negri tamid, that I have Hashem next to me at all times, in front of me at all times. And then I see the real name of Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei. But in front of me I also see the SS hat, the hat of the sign of the Nazis. And the Shiviti changes like a digital watch. And changes the letters, the Hebrew letters of the name of God. And the name of God is hiding. And I scream out and yell, why are you hiding? Hashem, why? I wanted to see Akva, the shoemaker, in the fire. Not the Satan coming out of the fire. Meaning it was his friend that died in the Holocaust, Akva. He wanted him to come out of the fire, to come back to life, not the Satan to come to life. He said, God, oh God, in your war with the Satan, don't hide your face from me. Don't put me in the hands of Parnatzel, the stick of Parnatzel. There was a Nazi named Parnatzel or Franzel, that was especially evil, would literally kill people with a stick. My God, why have you forsaken me? Yechiel Feiner suffered tremendously. But of course, there's no suffering without sin. What we see is that his past knowledge gives us a little bit of an illustration of what his past knowledge gave him, the right lingo of what it looks like to have Hashem hide his face and make it look like the deceiving illusion as if the Satan is ruling the world. And this was what haunted him throughout his entire life until he died about 23 years ago. The Rambam in Ilchot Tshuva is one of the things that Rav Elchanan Wasserman brings here. He also brings the Mesilat Yesharim that I mentioned to you. And he says, look at what the Rambam says in regards to these decrees. In Ilchot Tshuva, in chapter 9, where in the first halakha, The Rambam concludes the halacha and says as follows. And these blessings and curses can be interpreted as follows. If you serve God with happiness and observe His way, He will grant you these blessings and remove these curses from you in order that you may be free to gain wisdom from the Torah and involve yourselves in it so that you will merit the life of the world to come. Good will be granted to you in the world that is entirely good, and you will live long in the world which is endlessly long, the world to come. Thus you will merit two worlds, a good life in this world, which in turn will bring you to the life of the world to come. For if a person will not acquire wisdom in this world, and he does not possess good deeds, with what will he merit a portion of the world to come? As Shlomo HaMelech said in Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 10, there is no work, no accounting, no knowledge, and no wisdom in the grave. Conversely, says the Rambam, 800 years ago, if you have abandoned God and become obsessed with food, drink, lewdness, and the like, He will bring all of these curses upon you and remove all blessings until you will conclude all your days in confusion and fear. You will not have a free heart or a complete body to fulfill the mitzvot in order that you forfeit the life of the world to come. Thus you will forfeit two worlds. For when a person is occupied in this world with sickness, war, and hunger, he cannot involve himself with either wisdom or mitzvot, which allow him to merit the life of the world to come. Here the Rambam is simply giving us a clarification of the promises of the Torah itself. When we do what Hashem says, we merit and acquire two worlds. When we forsake what He says, we lose two worlds. Meaning, while the average person foolishly thinks that while they may not have heaven, they may not have olam haba because they're not observing mitzvot, they're not following the Torah, they can at least enjoy this world. There's nothing further from the truth. Those that forsake the Torah live the most miserable lives. While they may have at times material, most of them suffer materially. Most of them suffer with all types of financial problems. Most of them suffer with all types of headaches, even if they have money. Lawsuits, public embarrassments, shames, adultery, children being addicted to drugs, all types of psychiatric problems, all types of addictions, divorces. A life that when you look at the life in totality is a tragedy. They could sum up their life by simply the work that's forgotten. They built a law firm, they built a hospital, they built a stadium, but shortly after they die, no one even cares who did any of these things because their benefactors are sometimes their enemies. And in reality, you see that they ended up losing both worlds because while they may have left this world with enormous sums of money that they've gained, the beneficiaries of the money are often their haters, their enemies, or people that simply cared less about them. To all of what they worked for ended up benefiting somebody else. They were simply a slave. And this is what the Rambam is saying, is that it's not just losing olam haba, losing heaven, losing connection to Hashem in the next world. It's losing this world too. And this is actually what the prophet was told, the prophet Yecheskel, in chapter 9, verse number 9. He says the prophecy in the name of God. The iniquity of the house of Israel and Yehudah is very, very great, the land has been filled with bloodshed, and the city has been filled with injustice. For they have said, Hashem has forsaken the land, and Hashem does not see. So, I too, my eye will not spare, nor will I have compassion. I have placed their way upon their head. Just then, the man clothed in linen, with the slate upon his loins, brought back an answer, saying, I have done according to all that you have commanded me. In so many words, the prophet Yechezkel is saying in the name of God, when Am Yisrael sinned, whether it's in the past, present, and hopefully not in the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, what did you really do? What is the conclusion of your sin? When you didn't eat kosher, when you intermarried with the nations, when you forsaken my Torah, my Shabbat, my mitzvot, what did you do? What you did is that you told me you don't want me. You don't want me in your life. You don't want me to be your God. Well, fine. I'll show you what that looks like by hiding my face. Even if it's just for a moment, because you're still my children, and I will never leave you. Because I promised Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov that you will always be my children. But every good father has to rebuke his children when they are not acting appropriately, when they're doing things that are detrimental to their own lives, needless to say, to other people's lives. And therefore, when you're saying you don't want me, you don't actually realize what the weight of your words are. You don't realize what the weight of your actions are. And now I'm going to show you. And he shows Am Yisrael what it looks like not to have his protection. And this scene is a Holocaust. Rabotai Yekarim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the King of Kings, and He's also our Father. En od milvado. There's nothing else but Him. When we accept Him, when we serve Him, we are the biggest gainers of it. He gains nothing. When we betray Him, when we forsake Him, when we leave Him, it's like we're feeding ourselves deadly poison, thinking it's a medicine that's going to bring us life. Right now, Am Yisrael is in one of those times where there's so much bad news every day coming from every government that has any association to the Jews, even a remote association. Whether it's Turkey that used to have a good relationship with the Jews to the point where this was the place where many Israelis would go tour. There's actually a pretty decent sized keilah in Turkey. They just declared they're ready to go to war with Israel. Places like Syria, where the Jews flourished for many years, have become their enemies. Places where you had Jewish communities flourish, like Gaza. There were Jews, religious Jews in Gaza, were given to terrorists and now have become a battle scene. The people that are in power in Israel are more anti-Semitic than the Nazis. Our allies, the Americans, the European nations, are not exactly being so friendly. It's clear that the end of these relationships, it's only a matter of time. It's not a matter of if anymore. We hope the Mashiach comes very, very soon, but we all know that in order for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to glorify His name, the ultimate war of Amalek will have to be fought. And that means that our allies will become enemies. There will be a great war. The only question is, what side are you on? I'm with Hashem. Join me. Be'ezrat Hashem, Rabotai Yekarim, this too will help us get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and stop following the Satan, even though the Satan is sometimes given the permission to make it look like he's really running the show. If it looks like to you in your life, it's just because Hashem is testing you. Pass the test. Serve Hashem. Get other people to serve Hashem. Help us spread the holy words of the Torah in every corner of the world. And Be'ezrat Hashem, there's going to be so much sanctification of Hashem's name that we're going to be clearly on the right side. Many more will join us. And perhaps there's going to be so much Kedusha in the world that this illusion will end just like that.